with Bobby Gomes. Bobby, we had some news break. How's it going?
Going well. Ready to just hop into the slate and dive into it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, all right. We've got first game, Oakland versus the Green Bay Packers. Oakland are 4.5 point dogs, 47.5 point total. So that's interesting that the line has moved closer to being in favor of Oakland. It started at 6.5. It's moved 2 points in favor of them, but the total is still moved up. So this game is getting pretty interesting for DFS. Like at first, I think I was comfortable for the most part writing off, save for a few plays, but it's getting more and more interesting. We had Devontae Adams ruled out, which wasn't awfully surprising. We were still waiting on Geronimo Allison and MVS. One of the football talking heads, Pro Football Talk or Rappaport, said he doesn't expect that both of them play. One of them probably won't play. So Alan Lazard, I think, as the second receiver in Green Bay, 26 points implied team total. Lock him in your cash game lineup. He's 3K flat or 3,100, one of the two.
He's 3K flat.
Yeah, he's the second receiver. He's maybe they blow out Oakland, don't have to throw a lot, but he's the second receiver in a Green Bay offense. Like his chances of scoring a touchdown are pretty high. He's 3K. Like you just have to play him. There's no way you don't play him. My question is, are you interested in playing him in tournaments? Are you interested in Aaron Jones, who's another viable play in this game? And then for me, the only play I'd ever consider playing on Oakland as a road dog would be Darren Waller. I mean, you could play Josh Jacobs because he's cheap. I think he's 5K. He's getting a lot of volume, but I'm not playing road dog Josh Jacobs.
No, I'm with you. Until you see like Jacobs do it in the passing game, there's no reason to do that. Waller's like the best play on the Oakland side, especially with Tyrell Williams out. That's pretty much it. Like I'm not touching anything. Like I've heard people tout like Zay Jones. Like I'm not Zay Jones.
Well, you know what Zay Jones needed? A worse quarterback and a worse offense. That's what he needed.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's pretty much it for this game. Wouldn't you say? I don't think there's much. Aaron Rodgers is really popping in models. Just like you basically hit on the Lazard play. He's like a really good play in cash. If MVS plays and like you fade Lazard in tournaments, which I think would be something that I'd consider to do, I don't mind MVS. It's actually very interesting to me, like seeing where Rodgers is in models because he hasn't hit the 300-yard mark all season. But it looks like he's in a pretty good spot, so I don't mind that with MVS stack in tournaments. And obviously, Lazard is the Green Bay playing cash. You wouldn't be playing Rodgers in cash.
Yeah, I'm not awfully interested. That's very interesting that Rodgers is popping. Like you said, he's not the 300-yard bonus. Like he hasn't had like a crazy touchdown.
He hasn't, but he's Aaron Rodgers, so eventually.
Yeah, it's based on the historical precedent of him being Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think he's Aaron Rodgers anymore that we know. So that's why I would say I don't know. Maybe he still is. In my opinion, he's not the Aaron Rodgers of a year ago that data is based off of. But I mean, I don't know. It's a small sample.
If he is, then
that's what you're betting on.
Mac is interesting. Lazard's interesting.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next game. We have the game of the week. We have Atlanta versus the Rams. They are hosting the Rams, but are 3-point dogs. 54.5-point total that moved up a point, but I think that happened at the very beginning of the week, so we kind of had already touched on that. So you kind of like the under. I still think even if you call the under, you're still trying to get a lot of these guys into your cash game lineup just because the under could still result in 48, 49, 50 points, and that could still end up leading the week.
That's pretty much it. Like, obviously, the sharp money's moved towards the over, but last week we seen Rams versus San Francisco, like the under hit. I just think this game's sneaky in a sense that everyone's going to gravitate to it in cash games. Matt Ryan's going to be extremely popular. I like tournament leverage and playing Rams defense with like Darrell Henderson. I think that's really interesting, especially with Ramsey playing. I think that's actually Rams D might be one of the higher owned defenses that I have right now in terms of my tournament exposure. On the other side, like Cooper Kupp, if you're playing low stakes cash or if you're playing any cash in general, like get Cooper Kupp in your lineups. Pretty much a phenomenal play today in terms of matchup. I like when everyone likes Ryan and Ryan Hooper, I know is going to be really popular. Hooper will be popular in cash games. for a lot of people with what he's done of late. And especially with Ramsey, if he's playing on Julio, like a lot of those targets are going to be funneled to guys like Cooper and Ridley and Freeman. Freeman's going to be a really popular cash game play as well. For me, like I like the other side. Like I like the Goff stat. I like Jared Goff should have a good game in this situation, even though he's on the road. Atlanta doesn't get a great pass rush. They can't really cover anyone. Like Brandon Cook should bounce back. Like I like the Ram side a lot more than I like the Falcon side in this situation.
Yeah, just like you covered pretty much everything. I think Devonta Freeman probably not the best play in cash, just because he's tied in red zone carries with Ito Smith. Despite Ito Smith missed, I think, a decent amount of game 2 or 3. I think it was concussion, but it might have been other things. So, like, in more playing time, he's gotten just the same amount of red zone work. 2 weeks ago, Ito Smith had like 6 receptions. Like, I don't know why you would pay what he's probably like 5,400. There are bell cow backs like Kerryon Johnson and Josh Jacobs below him. Like, they're equally as not the best plays, but you just pay less for more volume. So I don't know. I'm not playing Devonta Freeman in cash.
People, yeah, I haven't really figured out my cash lineup. Like, I have an idea of what it is. I just know that throughout the week people have been on him, but I don't finalize anything till 11:30. A lot of people talk about like their cash game plays during the week, and it's just like we don't know anything. So
yeah, it's very speculative. Like the only things like I've set in stone is like I'm playing Leonard Fournette.
Yeah,
that literally might be it. I think I've changed everything since then. So yes, I think that's the only thing this week. Yeah, I wouldn't play Devonta Freeman. He's a great tournament play. I can pull up like some sort of projected ownership for him. Yeah, I see him right now at 12.5%. I still think he's a fine play there. Like it's not like egregious. Like Leonard Fournette's 35% right now according to this projection. So, yeah, I think that's most of everything. Any interest in Mohamed Sanu or Calvin Ridley? I guess, or Julio Jones. You said Ramsey might cover him, but he's still a guy who's talented enough to beat Ramsey. Like it's in his range of outcomes.
Yeah, it's in his range of outcomes, but his ownership's too high for me to roster him if Ramsey's in coverage. Calvin Ridley and Sanu are definitely fine and in play for tournaments.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I think that's everything. Yeah, I feel like we touched on. Oh, I guess one final question is: are you playing Todd Gurley? His price is. We talked a few weeks ago when he was like 70-something hundred. And we were like, once he gets, closer to 6K, we'll start talking about playing him. Malcolm Brown, I don't know if he's been ruled out yet, but I doubt he plays at this point. So he's dealing with rookie backup. Darrell Henderson is the only real backup. I guess they'll probably bring John Kelly, like veteran who didn't make the team this year. This will be probably Gurley's most highest market share game with Malcolm Brown out. Any interest in playing him with a 28.75 team total?
I guess you could in tournaments. Not going to be something I'm going to like. I think Darrell Henderson for the price is a better play in tournaments as well. But I don't mind Gurley. Like if you get him in there in game stacks, but it would be a game. It wouldn't be something I'm heavily weighing. It'd be more of a game stack situation.
All right, hopping to our next game. We have the Vikings versus the Lions. This has moved heavily in favor of the Vikings, where it opened as Lions favored because they're at home. Man, I have had money when the line didn't move. Yeah, so this is now heavily in favor of the Vikings compared to where it opened. Line has moved 4.5 points, depending on your book. It's also moved down a half point to 43.5. It gets a bit less interesting with the Vikings favored. I don't necessarily want to play as many of their receiving options. Dalvin Cook always in play. I don't know. What are you doing with this game? To me, it's like one player on each team that I'm really interested in, especially with this total moving down.
Yeah, so I think Dalvin Cook's extremely interesting. The Lions haven't been great versus the run. They have Snacks Harrison. He's probably the best run defender in the league, so that could change. And at any given moment, Dalvin's usage is very strong in the situation at 8K. I like him. I like running it back with like Hawkinson and tournaments. It would be like a little niche game stack, or Kenny Galladay for that matter. Adam Thielen is also someone I think if Diggs sees Darius Slay, which I would expect he would, then it would be Thielen who's going to be in the slot versus Jonathan Coleman, I think, ex-Patriot, who's been actually pretty good. But I'd take Thielen every time. I think there's a significant advantage, like attacking that if you want to do that and differentiate by rostering Thielen. And that's pretty much it. Do you have anything that you're kind of? Oh, also, I think that like if you're getting to carry on, the Lions defense isn't the worst play at all. Lions D just at 2,300. I think that they're going to be. It's like definitely a tournament play, but correlating them with carry on, I think, is a better move than like if you go Lions D and carry on, or carry on and Thielen and just scrap the Lions D. But I actually am pretty bullish on the Lions. Not pretty bullish, but I'm going to be more
bullish at their price at least.
I'm bullish at their price. Yeah, like my ownerships, I have a little bit of them, but yeah, I just think they're an interesting tournament play.
Yeah, just one thing you touched on that, as you said, it kind of clicks. We were talking before the show. There are a lot of good players, good receivers specifically, right below 6K. Kenny Golladay would be a great pivot off of T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton coming in as one of the highest owned players. They're within $100 of each other on DK, but I think the game script sets up perfectly for Golladay, and like he's capable of putting up these like 152 touchdown games. So I think he's actually a phenomenal pivot play in that range. And then you correlate him well with Dalvin Cook, who's going to be somewhat highly owned. But if you were to go with like pay up for Dalvin Cook and maybe forego Leonard Fournette or something like that, you get a very different lineup.
Yeah,
just one way to play it, or just go Dalvin Cook over Saquon Barkley is another way to like have a bit of a different lineup. So I think just that stack alone is going to give you like a very solid leverage over the field.
no, I like that call. I think that's pretty sharp.
All right, next game we have is Jacksonville versus Cincy. Jacksonville 4-point favorites has not it's moved half point since it opened. They are on the road at Cincy, but still favored because of how awful Cincy is. A 43.5 point total has moved down a point. There are very few plays I'm interested. Joe Mixon is popping in models specifically because he's getting a lot of volume, and he's like 5K flat. I don't know. They have an awful offensive line. They are not favored. They're 4-point dogs, in fact. He hasn't getting the receiving game work, so he can be game scripted out more or less. You couldn't pay me to play Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I wouldn't play Joe Mixon, but I think there's sneakier plays in this game than a lot of people think, especially like game stacking, carry on and Tyler Boyd. I'm not carrying, I'm sorry. DJ Chark and Tyler Boyd. I think that's really interesting in tournaments. They're in that TY range that you talked about where Galladay is. I also like Fournette. If I'm paying down a quarterback, I don't even hate Minshew. But yeah, I'm not going to play Tyler Boyd. And MME, maybe taking a shot at Eifert isn't the worst. If you're just looking for games, like tight end kind of sucks this week, to be perfectly honest. Well, it's pretty good, but it's just like I don't know. I like Boyd a lot. If I was game stacking, like I'm just trying to look for different ways to differentiate MME. I don't want to play Eifert because he's a miserable roster. But
Yep.
I knew you were gonna say that. But it's just
it's tough though because there are like 4 good tight end plays this week, I think.
No, there are good tight end plays. What I'm saying is there's not good tight end plays that like you can game stack with. And if you want a game like I like in terms of like trying to build to like correlate plays in tournaments, like I don't know, like there's nothing there is, but I don't know. There's nothing off the board that like really sticks out. So I'm just trying to force it a little in tournaments, but
I think so.
So much if you're gonna play Leonard Fournette in tournaments and you don't differentiate in some way, you're not gonna have it. Like there's no, like you just can't play Leonard Fournette in all chalk in tournaments. Like that would be really foolish, right?
Very foolish. I think, yeah, Tyler Boyd's ownership projections come up throughout the week. So I even think stacking Fournette, or did I say Eifert? I meant Boyd if I didn't say it. Tyler Boyd's ownership projections actually come up throughout the week. He was projecting as a really good stacking option with Fournette because, like you said, like you just can't play the stone cold chalkiest play of the week and just be like, well, lineup set, let's look elsewhere. You have to like correlate it with somebody that's also not going to be popular. So I think maybe what do you think about just game stacking, like just going Jags heavy, like just straight up Jags, like quarterback, running back, receiver, and Tyler Boyd?
Yeah, I have a good bit of that.
Okay, that's what I was like thinking because one, this Bengals defense is so incredibly bad, but they also pass so much. There's a good chance that you just get the ball back with like no clock run down. So I think that might be, and then run that back with Boyd might now be the more like leverageable way to play this game, just because Boyd's actually kind of going to be popular, which sucks because I had that early in the week. But also, D.D. Westbrook is set to play. Just that was something we hadn't touched on, but he is looking like he's going to play. There's a chance that like he feels tight in warmups and doesn't play, but that's just something.
Like Chark. I think Chark's like a really good player.
I would much rather play Chark. I just don't know if I see D.D. Westbrook as a great tournament play because he has like the same amount of targets, but they're so low ADOT. I just don't think he's like going to be a very explosive, like wide range of outcomes players on any given week.
Yeah, Chark is like really good.
All right, let's hop into the next game. We have San Francisco versus Washington. San Francisco 10-point favorite, hasn't moved a ton since it opened. Oh, Jesus, the total has moved down 3 points since it opened to 39.5. Probably the lowest of the slate without looking. Oh no, there's one more even awful game. Second lowest of the slate, it looks like. Any interest, like at this low of a total, I start losing interest in the game entirely. I still think Tevin Coleman at 5,600 getting more work than Matt Breida is a good play, like a good play, but I'm sort of downgrading him from a really good play that I thought he was earlier in the week. Like it's Tevin Coleman and George Kittle for me. I guess you could go Matt Breida. Any interest in any of the receivers or like Terry McLaurin in this game?
I think that like Tevin and Breida with San Fran D is a good correlated play in tournaments.
Like roster both Tevin and Breida?
No, that's not what I was saying.
Okay, I was like, that's great.
Yeah, no, I wasn't gonna. Yeah, I was basically saying one or the other.
Yes, I would significantly lean Tevin because he's getting most of the red zone and goal line work. Plus, he's just getting overall more volume for only 500 more. I just think the price discrepancy should be wider.
Yeah, people are also going to play Washington D this week just because it allows you to get so much. John made that pretty clear in the chat, and it actually makes a little bit of sense with San Fran coming across country. It's not something I really want to do. Like I'd really avoid doing it, and don't correlate Adrian Peterson with Washington D.
Oh my God, somebody's going to do that, and I'd love to.
Somebody's going to do it, and like, to be honest, think about the play itself. Like it's really a 5K play. It's 5,100 to do that. I don't know. I wouldn't do it, but like
if it was like anybody other than if they had a 3-down back.
What?
If they had a back that was going to get any amount of passing game work, or had like, I don't know, some semblance of touchdown upside.
So I don't know. I'm saying like it looks like Callahan's going to want to establish the run here, even if they are down pretty significantly. And it would be interesting to like, I don't know, like Peterson could end up being too cheap, but this matchup's terrible. And like, I don't know what, like, I just don't want to do that, but people are going to play Washington D. So I think in tournaments, like, no, just forget what I just was trying to say. It's not, don't do that.
Yeah. All right. Any interest in like George Kittle or I guess the San Francisco receivers, but for me, like you're just not getting enough market share of any of these guys, especially with their implied team total moving down. Like I would only play George Kittle, and I don't even think he's like a great tight end play.
So Pettis has touchdown regression coming, and if you think that Kyle Shanahan's going to really like try to step on the throat of this Washington team, which is in the realm of possibility, advantage narrative today. I don't mind like Garoppolo, Pettis, Kittle stacks to kind of be different. It's just I think my favorite would be Pettis. He's like due for some touch. He's gonna catch a touchdown eventually. He's been tackled like inside the 2 twice this year, something like that. So I don't know. And I like Kittle. I think it's a way to differentiate because a lot of people aren't going to play him, and it's a really good spot.
Yeah, Pettis has actually gotten some run in the past few weeks, 6, 3, and 5 targets after getting 1 target through 2 games. He's also, the past 2 games, 63 and 71% of the snaps. Like he's now sort of getting to the territory where we thought he would be at the beginning of the season. So actually, I don't hate that call. I might actually integrate that in some of my lineups. So I like the Pettis call. That's actually something I had overlooked. All right, without anything else in this game, let's move on to Houston versus Indy. Indy are 1 point favorites at home. This happened early in the week, but the line did move from Pick'em to Indy favored. Now the total has moved down from 48 to 46. T.Y. Hilton at 5,900 is going to be uber chalk. I think we can always expect Watson to have some amount of ownership, plus Hopkins to be somewhat highly owned as like one of the best receivers in the league. But I'm not like super interested in this game as a whole. I'd much rather just take a one-off Indy player or like two-off Indy players. I don't know. I just don't love the Texans. I don't know. Is it like, am I just biased for not liking the Texans in this spot?
Yeah, well, I hope a lot of people have the same sentiment with like Hopkins, because I really want to play Hopkins this week. I think he's a really good roster. He has just positive regression coming in terms of touchdowns. He's hasn't seen the majority of red zone. He's like last on the offense in terms of red zone targets. That's going to swing back his way eventually. Marlon Mack, I think, correlates really well with Colts defense in this situation. And just with recency bias and how good this Texans offense has been, like I'd leverage that in tournaments. T.Y. Hilton is not someone I'm going to play in tournaments, which is going to scare the living. Well, it's not like I'm a little nervous to fade Ty, but I just think there's so many good players in that range. And then like a lot of people keep bringing up like Ty's past history versus the Texans and stuff like that. And it's just really not relevant because it's a completely different situation. Luck to Brissett. Like, I don't know. Maybe you could say like, I don't know. Well, Jonathan Joseph's been there since 2011, and I'm pretty sure that he's been covering him the whole time. So maybe that's not, I don't know. I'm just not in love with Ty like everyone else is. Everyone seems to be like enamored, but you got to play him in cash, I feel like, right?
I probably have to play him in cash, but there are a few wide receivers that are going to be pretty highly owned. I think John Brown checks to be really highly owned. We'll talk about later at a similar price. I don't know. I don't think it's like a must play in cash. Although I would still think like there's a decent chance he makes it in my cash game lineup. I just don't think like Leonard Fournette is a must play in cash for me. T.Y. Hilton is a guy who I'd like to get in my cash game lineup. That would be the difference.
No, I get you. It makes sense.
And actually, Hopkins coming in pretty low ownership, like for DeAndre Hopkins, like hovering around 10%, according to the projections I'm looking at. That's the sort of DeAndre Hopkins I'd like to own. So I think I'm actually going to make some notes here on players I want to add to my pool.
Yeah, DeAndre is a really strong play today.
DeAndre Hopkins running him back with Marlon Mack too, as like I think you could also do that instead of running it back with the defense.
I was just hoping like the Marlon Mack play is really good if Ty was going to be egregiously owned, which
I think we're on pace to have that happen.
Like that's what like I was kind of hoping for. And like the defense, obviously, like I think you could play Colts D in cash, to be perfectly honest. Like I'm not against that.
They're above average. They're like averaging 2.6 sacks per game, which is like top 15 or so in the NFL. So it's above the halfway mark. And then Deshaun Watson has taken the 6th most sacks in the NFL so far at 18. So yeah, like you're getting a lot of sack equity in terms of just playing against Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, the sack equity is great. And then on top of that, like Colts, like speaking to Mac, like the Colts offensive line is probably the best offensive line in the league. It really is a good situation. Then like assume rational coaching, like Frank Wright or Bill O'Brien, like who are you going to pick? Like Frank Wright is a really good coach, and Bill O'Brien.
Frank Wright is a very intelligent coach, and Bill O'Brien is a donk.
Yeah, he's the worst. So I just like, I think that it makes a lot of, and we've seen in the playoff game last year, just how much they were interested in like involving Mac in Houston. Just to keep Watson off the field. But I think it was better off with Watson on the field because he was absolutely horrible in that game. Like kept throwing picks and, but yeah, I don't know. I just think they're going to employ Mac a little more today. So I like Mac a ton.
One final question. Carlos Hyde is projecting as a good points per dollar play because he's got 3 20 carry games to his name. I don't know. It seems gross, but like, is he in play?
What's his price?
It's pretty low. I can look it up. He is 4,700. So he's below 5K. He's got 3 20 touch games to his name. Plus he has like 1 highly targeted game, which was weird. Probably an anomaly, but I guess like that means it's within the range of outcomes. Yeah, he had a 5 target, 4 catch game and produced a dominant 6 yards on that game. Jesus Christ, he sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with Hyde. I think 4,700 is probably too expensive in this situation. Why don't they play Duke Johnson? Like, he's good. Like, no coach likes to play Duke Johnson for whatever reason. Just doesn't.
Remember how we just talked about how bad Bill O'Brien is?
No,
That's probably why.
no, but I know. He's really run bad in terms of like guys who want to play him. Duke Johnson in terms of like coaching.
Just playing in Cleveland for the first whatever years of your career, you probably can't run any colder. Just like Corey Coleman, same thing. Shout outs to the real one, Corey Coleman. Had to play his like basically start and finish his career in Cleveland, so that sucked. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Cardinals versus the Giants. Cardinals are 3-point road favorites. The total in this game has moved up to 50.5. I think most of that happened early in the week. Most of that happened in the first half of the week. So I guess I would start off with the Giants. It's pretty easy to figure out like 3 players, I guess maybe 4, but really for me, it's three or 4 players I'd be playing in this game. Daniel Jones is a great discount. Josh Allen, who's a great discount. Lamar Jackson, great play. I think Daniel Jones, very viable in cash. I still don't think I'd be going there, but I could understand the argument for it because you're just playing a cheaper Josh Allen against a horrible Cardinals defense. Evan Ingram gets the flowchart narrative playing the Cardinals tight end funnel, I guess. And then the real question for me, though, is do you think Saquon Barkley comes back to immediately be Saquon Barkley? Because at that point, below 9K, he's like very much in play for cash.
Yeah, I hope so, right? Like, I think Saquon's a really good play. I like this stack a ton in tournaments. Daniel Jones, Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley. And the Giants defense, which I think is another defense that's going to be overlooked in this situation versus a team that can, like Kyler Murray's going to turn the ball over. David Johnson on the other side, he's playing. I think I'd prefer Chase just as a roster at 4,700. He's the same price as Duke Johnson. So that would be one reason not to play Duke Johnson. Chase. And then Larry Fitzgerald as well as someone at 6K. If you like your 8 points and no ceiling, play Larry.
See, that's the thing. I feel like
I actually don't hate it.
I've never hated it because you're getting like so many targets. You're like averaging some.
You have hated it. You have hated it because I brought it up multiple times and I've played him in cash multiple times.
I've played him in cash.
I'll never play Larry Fitzgerald. He's dust, man.
I've never said I'll never play him because I did.
But like the red zone targets are so high. There's no.
Yeah, no, I have played him before, and that's probably why I'm so conflicted. Is like he's getting so many targets. Why isn't he scoring more points?
Because he's dust. But yeah, I don't know. I like Larry today. Keyshawn Johnson, he's seen a lot of uptick in targets. It's important to note though that Damiere Byrd was hurt, so that'll cut in. Like one of them's just gonna. It's just like it's a gamble playing either or. I would prefer Keyshawn, but. Last week when that was a situation and Keyshawn saw 86% of the snaps, Damiere Byrd was just getting healthy or getting more healthy. So his playing time might increase and then you're cutting into each other. So I don't know. I think Edmonds is my favorite play on the Cardinals side anyways. I definitely love the Giants stack with Daniel Jones, Ingram, Barkley, and Giants D and not rostering any of these Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a unique way to attack it. I don't like, yeah, I mean, it's very viable. For me, the only thing is I do think that there's a chance that Daniel Jones rushing like projection would cut into Saquon Barkley's, especially in the red zone. So like those two might limit each other's ceiling. So maybe I would consider like if you want to go with the Giants onslaught going like Slayton, Ingram, and Daniel Jones or something like that. Or
Patrick Peterson, though, correct?
What?
Yeah, so
cut out for a second.
Patrick Peterson's back, so I don't know if he'd be covering Slayton. He might get Tate. I don't really have cornerbacks or defensive matchups pulled up in front of me, so I don't know.
I don't either, but it's only a cornerback. I don't care that much. Like,
I get it. I just like for me, rookie versus an all-pro is just like something I usually try to avoid, even though defense kind of doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah, like the top two and the bottom two probably matter. Like I know the nerds on Twitter, of which I'd probably be one of them, have even said like, yeah, there's statistically significant evidence that like the Patriots defense does matter essentially. So like I'm willing to say the top two and the bottom two matter, especially like cornerback, probably the same thing. But unless he's not a top two cornerback for me, so
I think Peterson helps Ingram. helps the middle of the field offense. So whoever is going to be in the slot, like I'd probably prefer them. Yeah, I think it means that the targets are going to be funneled between the hashes. If he decides to stay away from Peterson's not going to travel in the slot. So he hasn't his whole career. So like I like Ingram a ton for that reason. It's the same reason I like Cooper. If Ramsey is on Julio, like that's just how I think that they'll funnel targets into the middle of the field.
One more play in this game we didn't talk about. We talked about all of the weapons for Kyler Murray. We didn't actually talk about Kyler Murray, who in the past few weeks has seen his rushing projection come up significantly. His first 2 weeks, he got 3 carries each. Since then, he's had back-to-back games just now of double-digit carries. Like 27 yards has been his floor after hitting 4 and 13. And of course, like he's still like looking like a pretty darn good passer, getting a ton of volume because they want to pass more than any other team in the league. I think they lead the league in pass attempts or passing play percentage. If not, it's like the Falcons that are just ahead of them. What are you doing with Kyler Murray? Because I don't feel confident, or even like I don't want to stack any of his receivers with him. I'm probably not going to be playing him in tournaments. So like any interest in you in tournaments or cash for Kyler Murray?
I think he's definitely viable in tournaments. I'm a little bit afraid in cash because I think the Giants defense is a little better than what people think. We've seen that last week versus the Patriots. I just don't – the one thing that the Giants do that is actually makes it a very optimal situation for Kyler Murray is they play man on the outside. And if you are going to run if you are rostering a running quarterback, that's what you want in terms of a defensive scheme. So they'll have their backs turned and Murray will just fly up the field. So I think that's a great situation for him. So I get it. Like I get why people want to play him. He's not a bad play at all. He's viable. He's fringe cash, I think, and he's definitely viable in tournaments.
Yeah, for me, the only thing keeping me off of him in cash is just if I'm paying up for these guys, I'd probably rather go Josh Allen with a higher implied team total at 200 cheaper, or like scrounge up another $100 and get Lamar Jackson, who like Kyler Murray has rushing equity. Lamar Jackson is like an RB2. So like just around his price range. Earlier in the season, he was like below the tier 1 of quarterbacks, and I was all about it. Right now, I just think there are like slightly better plays around his price range. In tournaments, like that doesn't really matter as much for me. I think he's totally in play in tournaments. I'll certainly have some of them.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right, next game I want to talk about, because there's like 2 or 3 good plays, and I think they're really good plays, are Josh Allen and the Bills versus Miami. Miami, oh my God, Miami are 17-point dogs. Totals actually moved up 41.5. Oh man, that means the Bills are the highest implied team total of the week. Like, how are you not playing Josh Allen at this point in cash? Like, I was strongly considering playing Matt Ryan. I think I guess touchdowns are pretty wonky to project, but if you're based on the implied team total and like the Josh Allen rushing projection plus like the deep ball projection, you just like he to me would be who you expect to score the most touchdowns on the week.
Yeah, I currently have Allen in cash. I just don't know what I'm going to do with defense, but that's pretty much my issue. Yeah, I think Josh Allen's a really good play. He'd definitely be the cash game option for me. John Brown, I think, is also a really good play. I like him a ton. Just with the air yards, I think he's 11th in air yards right now.
And he's already had a bye week, which a lot of the guys that have him probably have not. So just even further, just how many air yards per game.
The thing that makes me a little nervous is I think he still had a Q tag like going after the bye. So that's never good, like coming out of a bye and still having that Q tag, which is a little – I think he's definitely in a play today. But if he's still a little banged up, it would make me a little hesitant. But with Zay Jones leaving, I think that definitely frees up targets for John Brown. So that's another reason why he'd be even more in play today at that price tag. So I think the more I think about it, like he's just a much better play than TY.
See, yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's one of the reasons I don't think you have to prioritize TY in cash. I think Kenny Golladay is not a bad play, not as good as TY, but you can move down to John Brown, who for me, like I think raw is probably better, let alone the $400 discount.
Yeah, I get that. Makes sense. Yeah, from there it's pretty much Yeah, I really like John Brown. Like Devin Singletary is another one. He could see around 17 targets. He is at like 5,400 or like 5,600. 17 rushing attempts, not targets. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if he's seen like 5 targets. But Frank Gore is still going to be someone who's going to be played in this situation, and he'll cut into Singletary. In terms of Dolphins running backs, I'm sure we're going to have questions on. Like, I don't want to roster Dolphins running backs, but Kenyon Drake, Mark Walton, like Kellen Balaj, like good luck. It's just like I have no interest. It'd be nice to know which Dolphin receiver Tre'Davious White's on, if he's on Preston or Devontae, because whoever that is going to get targets funneled to them. I think Dawson Knox is a good stacking option with. But the issue is, who was that old Bengals tight? Tyler Kroft is now back, so that could hurt Knox's upside.
Yeah, for me, I'm not playing any single. I think you can just run I guess Bill's Onslaught. I don't know. Bill's Onslaught would really not be a ton of players though. For me, like I don't know. I'm just stacking Josh Allen with John Brown. I do think maybe like you could still run that back with defense or Devin Singletary, just because they're like if this plays out how like Vegas expects it to, John Brown, Josh Allen, Devin Singletary, and Buffalo defense would all be those would all be good plays basically.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about Cole Beasley either, who's another guy that would be in consideration, and he actually allows you to do different things in cash games if you were interested in playing Beasley. I know it sounds like it just doesn't sound like a fun roster, but with Zay Jones out of the picture and the team total being so high, yeah. Beasley's eventually going to get his feet in pay dirt. Like I don't mind.
Yeah, he's got 39 targets. I'm assuming they've played like 5 games, so he's averaging just shy of 8 targets a game. He's on the highest implied team total. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like everything adds up, and he's super cheap, I assume, because he's Cole Beasley.
Yeah, it's just like he doesn't really allow you to get – I don't know. I just don't love it. It is what it is.
If like for some reason you felt the need that you had to play Saquon Barkley and Dalvin Cook, maybe that would be a good reason to go to Cole Beasley, because then you'd have like Beasley and Lazard or something. But I don't think you need to actually get both. Like this isn't a jam 'em in week for me. So,
all right, what are we
getting? Next game we have is the Titans versus the Chargers. Titans are 2.5-point favorites. It's moved to 1.5 since it opened. The total has been skyrocketing since it came out. It's a 3.5-point increase in this game total at 42 now. I'm still not awfully interested, but you have to, given how all the sharp money is on, or just all the money in general, I guess, might be on this game scoring more points than expected. I don't know. I still don't want to play any Titans, but I guess you have to consider Derrick Henry as a 2.5-point home favorite. I'm probably still not playing him because I hate Derrick Henry, but I do think the Chargers present a lot of good plays. Hunter Henry at 4K. We saw him come back to a 100-yard game. Plus, did he score twice, I think? Just like massively underpriced given how talented we know he is. And then for me, Mike Williams, who is out targeting and out air yards in Keenan Allen since he came back in the past 2 weeks, is like one of the best plays. He's 48 or 4,900, I think. He's like one of the best plays of the week for me.
Yeah, I think I really like Mike Williams. I think Keenan Allen's squeaky wheel narrative after he was kind of chirping the coaching staff on Twitter, like I think he'll get that.
He joined fantasy football Twitter for a minute.
Yeah, he did join fantasy football Twitter. The issue is though, like for me, is there enough? Because there's so much like you need to consider situationally, because of all the weapons that they now have. It's funny, it's ironic, honestly, because early in the season the usage was so concentrated, but now you have all these guys. Like I think Henry at 4K is like definitely it's not the play I want to play in cash. It feels like the play I have to play in cash. Just because for the savings. And then so basically like it would be Henry. And I think that the multitude of guys within that offense that need to get fed, I think it caps like Williams and Allen. So that's something I'm not in love with. But I was talking about Hunter Henry at tight end. Derrick Henry, I think he correlates well with the Titans D if you want to go that route.
Yeah, I would just say a few notes here. Travis Benjamin went on IR early this week, so I do think almost all of the deep ball work should be funneled towards Mike Williams. So I think he's a guy who could get there in like literally 2 to 3 targets, and I expect him to get closer to 7 or 8. Yeah, outside of that, though, I agree that earlier in the season, we had all of the receivers injured for the Chargers. So it was just Keenan Allen. It was just Austin Eckler. Now that has changed. So we've got Mike Williams getting a lot of work and Melvin Gordon at least getting half of the work. Any interest in Melvin Gordon or Austin Eckler? I don't know. They seem to want to give Melvin Gordon the ball more, but still get Eckler involved. And with their like implied team total being so low, I'm not interested in either of them. For me, it's just only receivers / tight end.
Yeah, I just hate this situation. Just get rid of Melvin Gordon. But he is cheap. Like, he's very cheap.
All right, next game we have is Baltimore versus Seattle. The line moved early in the week and hasn't changed into Seattle by 3. Total has come down a half point, but still at 49, one of the higher on the slate. Because we've got a young quarterback going to the West Coast, playing in a very tough place to play at Seattle, the line has moved down, I guess. Are you cooling on this game at all? Because early in the week, it was clearly one of the best games to play. Now, I guess you could say there are reasons to doubt, but I still think these are two of the best offenses with like overrated defenses in that they have name brand value and they actually both are not very good. So for me, I still want to stack this game, but am I like being blind to like the obvious red flags being raised in this game?
No, I think you're on it. Like, I think there's still good plays in this game. At the quarterbacks for just like the quarterbacks in general. Both Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson are really good plays. Russell's like the most extreme, like efficient player. It's only 100 up from Kyler. Like at the beginning of the week, I really wanted Russell in my tournament in my cash games. Just tough. Like, who are you going to pair him up with? I don't think you really have to pair him up with anyone. You said you wanted to pair him up with one of his receivers. Like, Russ is like a guy you can just roster by himself. I'm of the belief usually, but I get it, like wanting to get Lockett, but the volume really hasn't been there. He's just, I don't know. Marlon Humphreys, whoever he's covering, like I'm trying to stay away from that guy. We don't have matchups pulled up, so it's kind of tough. In terms of Lamar Jackson, like I think he's interesting. Definitely pair him with Andrews. And in tournaments, like if you're going to use him in cash, pair him with Andrews. You could use him by himself. In tournaments, maybe like Miles Boykin or Snead with Andrews, like just to differentiate in a 3-person stack.
Yeah, no, I think you covered most of everything. Chris Carson's a guy I'd like to touch on because he's gotten like 27 and 20-something carries in his past 2 games. Like he clearly is their guy. Even the fact that Rashad Penny is supposed to be back this week doesn't awfully concern me because he's gotten there before. Like week 1, I believe Rashad Penny was healthy. And Carson, despite fumbling, still got 20 carries and probably hit the 100-yard bonus. Yeah, they just don't seem to care that they have Rashad Penny that much. Or if they have him back, they just run the ball more. They like design more plays for him, but they still get Chris Carson his. So for me, I think Chris Carson, a phenomenal play as a home favorite against an overrated defense. Yeah, he's gotten over 20 carries and hit the 100-yard bonus in each of his past 3 games. Plus, in 2 of those games, he has 4 catches. Like he's getting, like I think he's 1 catch behind his last season total in terms of just total catches. So he's getting involved in the passing game. It's not like he's a true 3-down back like some other backs, but at 6,500, you don't need him to be that. And especially like given how like likely it is to project him to get the 100-yard bonus. More so than pretty much anybody in his range. I think he's a great cash game play, probably a great tournament play still. And I think you can run him back with like a Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack. Or I would say Willie Snead, probably the better play of Willie Snead, Miles Boykin. But both of them are going to be like next to 0 owned, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's how I kind of see it too. Like you pretty much just hit on everything. I think that the 3-man stack for Baltimore is interesting. Also, a 3-man stack for Seattle is interesting. But I just don't know if I love it as much as I did earlier in the week. You hit it on the head in terms of saying that.
One more thing, like we talked about Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf actually like one of the highest players in the league in terms of air yards, and he's crushing Tyler Lockett in air yards. Tyler Lockett running a lot out of the slot, but not getting as much deep work as we've seen in the past. For me, I don't think you have to run Russell Wilson back. I think you should run him back more so than you would like Lamar Jackson get there much more on his own. So could Josh Allen, but Russell Wilson still like he could just throw 2 touchdowns to Luke Wilson. Like that's possible and get there. But for me, if I'm playing Wilson, I'm probably running him back with DK Metcalf almost assuredly just because of the air yards.
Yeah, it makes sense. Is Marlon Humphreys on Metcalf or Lockett? We don't know.
I would imagine we don't know, but I think you would project him to be on Lockett. I think I saw that somewhere. I can pull up stuff while we talk. But our next game, yeah, I guess if you don't have anything else, we can talk about. Oh, I guess Mark Ingram. I don't know. He somehow like is over 20 to 30. Like, he's in like the 20 to 30% in the Millie Maker like multiple weeks throughout the season, despite him being like clearly a bad play. Is he still clearly a bad play? Because he's still clearly a bad play.
Yeah, I don't like Mark Ingram. I just don't play him, but I get it. If people want to play him to be different, it's just like not something I want to do.
I don't know. I don't get why you'd play a road dog running back who doesn't catch a ton of passes. Yeah. And his name is Mark Ingram. Don't play Mark Ingram is the point. All right, next and final game we have is the Saints versus the Bears. This should be a quick one because the Bears are 4-point home favorites. Totals moved down 2 points, 37.5. Alvin Kamara ruled out. Latavius Murray, 5,100 on DK. I'm probably still not playing him just because he's not like that super low, like 4,500 backup price. He doesn't like, I guess, like, I don't know. Do you project a lot of the receiving game work that Alvin Kamara gets to go to Latavius Murray? Because I tend to think that Alvin Kamara, as much as we've seen Saints throw to the running backs in past, is like a different breed of running back in terms of the receiving game he gets. I think that will just either convert to rushing projection, which is a lot worse, or go to Michael Thomas. Like, I think you can't just assume that Latavius Murray takes on like even a decent amount of Alvin Kamara's receiving game work. And if that holds true, then you're just getting between you're getting like a discount Mark Ingram, which I still don't care to play with a significantly reduced touchdown projection. Another thing. So
definitely has pass game equity more than like if we're making it the comparison to Malcolm Brown last week, like Lad has more pass game equity. The thing is he's 800. He's 800 more in terms of price. So it's kind of baked in, I feel like almost. I just don't want anything to do with Lat, but I get it.
So we've got Alvin Kamara out. Michael Thomas, is he just like, I guess how good of a play is, because I would project him to have even more targets, and he's already getting a dominant amount of targets, but he's going up against a good defense. He's got an extremely low implied team total of 16.75. I don't know, like things are setting up for him to be a good play because he's an underdog with an extremely high target share projection this week. But I don't know. I'm still not awfully interested in playing him because of this total. What are you doing with Michael Thomas? Because he's like the only other, like for me, he's clearly the only other Saint you would want to roster. Jared Cook also out, which I believe, which would make him just like, I don't know. You can project his target ceiling through the roof.
Yeah, Michael Thomas, I'm not really interested in, but I get it in terms of usage. Makes sense. I'm not going to like say anything like to discredit him. I just don't really want to play him with Teddy Bridgewater as his QB in Chicago. Is it Breeze or Bridgewater?
I'm pretty sure it's still Bridgewater. Like, I don't know if they've declared their inactives yet, but I'd be shocked if it was.
We can make changes. I'll adjust. I don't know what those adjustments would be. I still don't know if I'd play him. Actually, I probably would play him with Breeze just because like he's going to see. I think that changes a lot.
I'm pretty sure Drew Brees isn't playing. Like, I don't know if they've technically ruled him out yet, but I'd be shocked if he plays. I think he's still like weeks away. Nope, Drew Brees on the sideline. Okay, he's not playing for sure.
Okay, good.
Any interest in Chicago Bears? Allen Robinson getting like a dominant amount of this team's air yards and targets, which is what you love to see. Like if like I'm on airyards.com, just like I just have it running in the back of my brain at all times. Weighted opportunity, which is just both those things combined. He's like one of the higher players in the league. I don't expect it's hard to expect Anthony Miller, Taylor Gabriel to cut in. So he's the only play for me. I guess you could talk about him. Or actually both these teams have very good like defensive projections because they're both solid defenses. Neither team projects to score a lot of points. And they're both like right around the 3K range. I think they're like 3K and 2,900 or something like that, or maybe 3,500. I don't know. But both these defenses project pretty well. So like, what are you doing with Allen Robinson? Because it's a crappy game, but much like Michael Thomas, he is like project to get a ton of work. And also he's a lot cheaper is the big difference for me. So what are you doing with Allen Robinson, if anything, I guess?
Yeah, so in terms of Allen Robinson, I just at this point, like I'm not like I like the play. I have like pretty good exposure to him, but he's like behind everyone else, but I'd definitely be overweight on him.
And the defense
range. That was a horrible explanation. I'm sorry. I was trying to do two things at once. That TY range, yeah, or in John Brown range. He's probably the least. I have the least exposure to him, but I'm still have a good amount.
Yeah, he will probably be the least owned of what's his price exactly?
5,500.
Yeah, in that range and being a good play, him and Kenny Galladay will probably pale in their ownership compared to T.Y. Hilton and John Brown, who T.Y. Hilton projects to be like one of the highest owned receivers. John Brown's still getting a lot of buzz, so it's going to be like those two at the top, and then probably Kenny Galladay and Allen Robinson falling way behind. So they're good leverage plays at the price point, and then defenses would be the final thing.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's everything. We can get into some questions we have. We'll start in the chat. Half point PPR bye weeks are brutal. Jamal Williams or Alan Lazard. Dorsett was dropped and is on the waiver wire. Is Dorsett going to play this week? I haven't really looked into it because it's on the Monday, so you don't.
Play.
If he's going to play, I know for a fact Josh Gordon is out. He becomes a pretty solid play.
Yeah, he's a good play in that situation.
Yeah, I'd probably actually play him over Jamal Williams, who's like probably still on the wrong side of a committee. And Aaron Jones is really good. And probably over Alan Lazard, who like is in the same situation, but it's just hard to project him over Dorsett because we've seen Dorsett do it before.
No, I'm with you.
All right, let's get into some more questions. We have Cooks, Edelman, or Le'Veon PPR. Probably Edelman. Probably Edelman because Cooks is like projecting to be the third receiver on his team. I guess they have an extremely high implied team total. And then I'm playing like in season long, I'd be playing 0 Jets running into the Patriots defense.
Yeah. I think Edelman probably.
Let's see. We have Delaney Walker. Should he be a go? I'm not sure. Be a go? Is he like unhealthy? I just wouldn't play any Titans offensive weapons.
Yeah, I'm with you. Choice.
PPR flex and tight end. Pick 2. Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram, Latavius Murray, and Eckler. Probably honestly Mark Andrews and Evan Ingram is getting a lot of touchdown equity compared to Latavius Murray. You're getting 0, and Austin Eckler honestly might be getting 0 too. He's like, I don't know. I guess you could project Austin Eckler to get a decent amount of receptions because his team is going to be an underdog, but like, I don't know. Titans defense is pretty good, and they also just want to play this slow ground and pound game that could really see them control possession. So I don't know. I'd probably go with the 2 tight ends here, which is strange for me because tight ends generally have lower projections than running backs, but 2 tight end for me.
Yeah, I'd go 2 tight end too.
Still on Chase Edmonds, cash or GPP. David Johnson expected to play. I wouldn't play Chase Edmonds in cash probably because you're still projecting to get probably south of 10 total touches. So I'm not playing him in cash. I think he's a great tournament play though.
Yeah, I like Edmonds. I think he's a closer cash game play than what we would think, but I wouldn't play him in cash.
Full PPR season long, Hyde or Darren Waller in the flex. Definitely Darren Waller. I think like Hyde's in tournament consideration, but like just raw projection, I'd take Darren Waller over him.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think Waller is a really good play today, especially with Tyrell Williams out. He would be someone I'd try to get up to.
This is interesting. I told you I'd pull up the cornerback matchups with Marcus Peters in for the Ravens. It's going to be harder to project just because they have a new, like, we can't use the past projections that we saw or the past data that we saw this season. It's very possible that Peters or Humphrey get on Metcalf while Carr gets on Lockett in the slot.
Yeah, I think then we'd really like Metcalf because Peters just takes a lot of chances. I would like Metcalf in that situation.
Okay. All right. I think we have one more question in the chat. I'm going to assume that's PPR. Latavius Murray or Will Fuller. Still Will Fuller, especially in PPR, you're not getting as many receptions. You're getting like what you like Will Fuller for is the big yardage and touchdown plays. I don't know. Maybe I just hate Latavius Murray, but I'd still play Will Fuller.
Yeah, I'd play Will.
I think that is everything. It's perfect. Coming up at 10 o'clock. So, without further ado, I think it's time to head out here. For myself, you can find me at Kyle Tweets here. For Bobby Gomes at Bobby Gomes DFS. Everybody, thanks for tuning in, and you can catch us Wednesdays at 8:15.
Yep.
To break down what it'll be week 8. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on Wednesday if you decide to show up.
Later, guys.